Hello and welcome to Property Mastermind podcast, episode 215. Today we have one of our mentoring students who's going to talk to you about his journey and what it's taken for him to get into property development and what that means for him. You're going to learn a lot from this fabulous young man, and I think you'll be inspired to take action yourself. All right, let's jump on into this episode. Hello and welcome to the episode. Hilary Saxton, Bob Anderson, and we have the incredible Reece Brydon on with us. We've got an interview today with a mentoring student of ours who's reasonably new to the program, and we're just going to unpack what it's been like for him transitioning from being a builder to a developer, what his future looks like, and what development means. And I think you're going to be really inspired by this young man. So welcome, Reece. So pleased that we finally got to do this. We've had a few false starts.
Oh, thanks for having me. I feel like a bit of a celebrity on here.
You are a celebrity because people don't know this yet, but we won the Gold Stevie for our podcast last night. That is a global business award and it's very well recognised. So we're pretty pleased about that. And you're our first person since the winning of we were notified. We haven't received the award yet, but when we do, I'll be holding it up. Okay, let's talk about, Reece, you've been a builder for 5 years, and what made you curious about transitioning over and becoming a property developer?
A few of the builders I'd worked for before I sort of went out on my own were developed, sort of did a few for developers, and I sort of seen the money that they were sort of making opposed to what the builder was making, and just sort of seemed a bit more attractive, I guess.
Yeah. Mind you, builders are doing pretty well these days on their margins, wearing both hats, yeah, why not?
Bob, what do you see as the benefit of people wearing both hats?
Well, builders can obviously build at cost for themselves, whereas developers, like us who aren't builders, we have to engage a builder on contract. And so we're paying the builder cost plus their margin, and that's okay. That's how we do it. A builder has that built-in margin. But then with financiers, when it comes to a builder who's also a developer, they do expect the builder to make a building margin as well as a developer margin. But the point is, both of those margins go into the pocket of the builder, assuming the builder is also building his own development. Because what happens sometimes with builders who become developers is they decide not to do the building and the developing, but just do the developing, and they can take different levels of involvement. Get off the tools, for instance, and maybe become more of a supervisor, or simply engage another builder under the other builder's license. There's a lot of flexibility there.
And I think we're going to unpack a bit of that with Reece right about now.
We
spoke a while back, Reece, before you joined the mentoring program. It took a wee bit of time, and sometimes that does happen for people to, think about it or get their ducks lined up in a row, or, decide that it's for them, whatever they're going to do. But what finally pushed you to go, yeah, I'm going to do the mentoring program? What was the reasoning behind you choosing to do development and to do it now and join the mentoring program to do that?
It's probably something I've been thinking about for probably 6 or 7 years, to be honest. I was following the podcast and beers with Bob on Fridays. I was watching them when I was living overseas. But it was, I'd sort of bought an old house sort of just before COVID and spent every weekend and afternoon renovating that for 4 years, and finally finished that. And I think I finished that on maybe early December. And then I think I got a phone call from you, Hilary, just checking in. And I thought, well, the house is done. There's no more excuses. So let's rock and roll.
I remember our conversations because you said, I do want to do the mentoring program. I just want to finish this house, because you in your head had an amount of equity that you wanted, and obviously time's on your side because you're not sort of a little bit older, so you had that time to build up the equity, and luckily buying that property that you did and making a nice wee profit on that. Well done. I remember you saying, just got the driveway to go or something, or we're drawing the driveway this weekend. I do remember that. And you'd said to me, I think I'll be ready about then. So that's why I called you back about then. Yeah.
I love what he said, no more excuses. Hey, because so often we talk to people who have displayed a desire to become a property developer, but then they don't. And a year later we meet them, they come to one of the workshops. We say, you were going to do something last year. haven't done it, and they come up with a string of excuses about work and kids and dogs and God knows what. Hey, but I love that.
Yeah, you can find an excuse for everything, and what better time to just go for it? I thought. What's the point of putting it off?
You're right. I call excuses. I do this reasons. When you've got a lot of reasons, they're just our excuses, and we all do them. Not just in this, we do that for other things. Why we don't start another business or start our business or go on a better health journey or organize a holiday. We put things in the way to stop us being successful so often. So yeah, that was a great pickup there, Bob. You just listed it off. And I think once we've got to know you, Reece, as well, you're quite, an action taker, very positive person, successful, got a lot going on. Speaking of that, congrats, going to be a new dad soon, with yourself and Grace. So how has that sort of influenced you? Was that in the background that I'm going to be a dad soon, I want to change my lifestyle?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, probably the main thing for the development was to go into the development. Sorry, was to try and get my time back. You know, it's only a little small building company I run, and we're on the tools 8-9 hours a day, and then you're home in the office for 2 or 3. It sort of sucks a bit of the life out of you. So yeah, it's developing. Hopefully that I can transition into that in sort of 12 months time or something like that. If I can take it on full time and some time back.
I love that idea because many years ago when my kids were growing up and at school as a property developer, I used to front up for every swimming carnival, every athletics day. I mean, I was there for everything. And I think a lot of, mainly mums there because the dads are at work. I was full on property developer doing really well. And I never said what I was. And I think a lot of the ladies there, a lot of the mums thought I was, poor Bobby's probably unemployed. He's always here. He's got nothing to do. It wasn't that. It's just that I had the flexibility of just booking out a half a day or a whole day or whatever it was and going and seeing my kids. And that's that getting your time back. And with property development, you can make a lot of money doing it well, but it doesn't take a lot of hours necessarily.
Especially when Reece is talking already about doing that full day on the tools and coming home in the office, and you are certainly not the only builder in our mentoring program. There is a huge amount at the moment. So I think there is that realization that, hang on, I could actually buy my time back like you are. The journey that you're starting to now. That's a massive common thread and common theme that we are seeing. In fact, need to connect you with a few others that I'm sure you guys could do your own beers with. You should actually do beers with Bob. You and Bob and all the builders in Brisbane.
Bob the Builder.
Bob the Builder. Oh, that's what the grandkids call him, or mine do. Bob the Builder.
Yeah, beers with Bob and the Builders.
Yeah, there you go.
Bob and the Builders. We'll get 3 or 4 of them together.
Beers with Bob and the Builders in Brisbane.
Yeah.
There you go. It's a thing. It will make it happen. So, Reece, what were your expectations before joining, and have they changed a little since you have started in the mentoring program?
Probably expectations are probably more so. I wanted to get into that first one straight away. It wasn't quite what I was looking for, this project that I found. I was expecting to sort of try and do a high-end duplex or something, or knock down and build 2 houses. But this little renovation popped up, it's a big renovation, I should say. It sort of popped up, and the numbers made sense, so I jumped at that. I actually heard on your podcast last week, Hilary, that you wanted to get on the tools.
I love getting on the tools.
I was being meaning to message you to pop by if you want. Yeah. We're always looking for a hand.
She loves a good paintbrush. Oh, I actually love. Yeah, that's kind of my jam. That's hilarious.
We got photos of. I got dragged into a reno with Hilary, and I'm in my high vis there with the tool bag on, and her barking orders at me. I was the lackey.
Stop it! I don't think I was barking orders. It was
apprentice.
Being the apprentice.
You're fired.
Well, I guess going back to it, like the expectations now is sort of, now that I've got a bit of a system, I feel I want to go a little bit bigger now. Like it's, I feel I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm comfortable with it, but I feel more knowledgeable that I could find the answers for doing a bigger project. So that's probably shifted a little bit to what I was originally thinking.
Yeah, so that's something you sent me an email a couple of weeks ago when you got your site, when you purchased that house, that the one that's going to be a massive reno, and you said the last line in it was the gold. Thank you so much. Wouldn't be here without you, and we really appreciate when people say that, because we know what we do is life changing for people. And I'm sort of alluding to what you're saying, that knowledge you have now to think bigger, to go faster, to to speed up that journey. Even just being on this podcast here, there will be people listening today that think, oh my God, I want to do a joint venture with this guy. I've got a house, I don't know what to do. And if you are that person, and we'll say this again later, Reece's email will be at the bottom here. If you're thinking about doing something with your property in Brisbane, somebody who's developer, who's a builder, somebody who has got an expert team behind him supporting him, he's your guy. I'd be definitely reaching out to him, because that's the sort of thing that the education that you now have and that confidence that you've built, because you understand so much more, will do for you. So yeah, what do you think about that, Reece? You ready to do that?
Let's go. Ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
All right. So
And as well, you're a good guy.
got some lazy money out there choking itself to death at 3 and 4% in the bank,
Yes.
or a line of credit, or even self-managed saver. Like, put it to good work.
And the next thing, most people don't realize that there's a difference between a builder and a developer, or a lot of people, and that might be you listening now. But what were your kind of BFOs, or were there quite a few knowledge gaps that you had to fill, because building and developing are completely different? Yeah, were there? Has it plugged a lot of holes that have really built your confidence?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's more, I can build a house. That's no problems. It's more the start, setting the structures, the finance, just looking at the feasibility for, what costs are involved with it, how long they take, planning rules, all that type of stuff. So the current one, it got to a point, we're up to a point now where I'm sort of comfortable with the planning and getting plans drawn and building it. That's just another day, I guess, for me. But it's the front end stuff that, you have no idea about when you start. You can listen to as many podcasts and YouTubes as you can, but until you're sort of doing it, that's sort of when you really learn the good stuff.
Do you think other builders would be surprised at what you are, the holes that you plug?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Building, it's, you're on the site just banging nails, um, moving timber, but it's the whole financial side of it, and the front end stuff. You just don't get that, I guess.
I've often said, and actually a couple of builders probably got upset with me saying it, I always say the smart work's up front. And you appreciate that now because you know what you know. But like finding the site, sure, so understanding, planning what you're looking for. You're looking for a duplex, okay, how big a lot, where am I going to do it, that sort of thing. But the due diligence, like making sure I can get sewer connections, stormwater connections, because normally that's all taken care of before the builder hits the site. And then the finance, how we structure the finance, the commercial finance and so forth. And so I usually say that, by the time we get to the approval stage, like the real smart work's been done, finding the site, doing the due diligence and doing the numbers and getting it right and sorting the finance. And then it becomes a bit procedural. The same with the builder. I mean, Reece, you could build a house with a blindfold on, mate. I don't doubt it, But as you say, it's all that front end stuff that a developer needs to know as well.
I guess it's I won't say all builders, but some builders would think, just the purchase price, build price, sale price, that's all you need to know. But there's,
I've seen a few of those physios from builders. That's why we've got a few builders in the mentoring program. I think they're the ones that realise there's a bit more to it.
There's a lot more numbers in there you need to worry about.
Onto the sort of the way you think mindset wise now, have you had a bit of a mindset shift since you've gone through all the information, the course information, since you've been working with us? Has your mindset, has there been any sort of shift at all?
Yeah, for sure. You probably at the start you're not very confident about a lot of things about it. You've got a brief understanding of it, but you're not too confident about it all. But once you get into it, you get that knowledge. You can have them conversations with people and sort of know what you're talking about, and then that builds that confidence. I mean, there is days where I had one yesterday, where you're sort of transferring all the money over for the deposits and stamp duties and all that, and you're like, oh, do I know?
A bit of bias remorse.
Yeah, do I really know what I'm doing here? But
Oh my God, you should have rung me.
I don't. After 10 minutes, you sort of
Yeah.
pull yourself together and back yourself.
After the transfers happened, don't turn back now.
I think we all get a bit of that, don't we?
Oh,
you know, when you're settling on a site, there's that whole, okay, we're in now. I think that's all of us.
I still, even after over 40 years of developing, I think a little bit of fear, and fear is probably not the right word, but a little bit of fear keeps you sharp, and but back to the confidence and property development. I always say it is a confidence game, and we see people's confidence build, and it should. And I mean, Reece, you're a confident guy anyway, because you've gone out there, and you've become a builder, and you've operated your own business and everything, which, there's a lot of transferable skills, I guess. But
when we say, has your confidence, your mindset sort of help build that confidence, has that moved over to other areas of your life? At the same time, you're becoming a dad now, because we know this pregnancy is reasonably new. Has there been like a level up in the Reece Brydon world, do you think?
Yeah. I'd say so. It's sort of just, when something pops up, you're just like, yep, we'll just deal with it. It's not once upon a time something popped up, you think it was the end of the world, but you just sort of just have a go and work it out. Like yesterday, I got a parking fine for $500. I was a bit annoyed for an hour or two, and you're like, oh well, there's nothing we can do now. We just move on. Positive. Don't let it ruin the day today.
No, don't do that. I'll tell you about mine later on.
Yeah, don't talk to Bob about parking fines. What's it been like, having us on your team and being able to lean in, Bob, Aaron, Hilary? What's that been like for you when you're looking at deals?
Yeah, it's. I don't think I would have done it without being in the mentor program. It's that confidence of having you guys just as a phone call away at any time of the day. I haven't called you late at night or anything, but
some do.
Yeah, it's just that, just knowing that there's three people there that have the answers for you if you get stuck. Yeah, I'd say that would be a big one.
And does it feel a little bit less sort of risky because you've sort of had that backup?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's just knowing that you won't make a decision that will jeopardize the project without, if there's any doubts, just to run it by you guys, and you've got that second opinion. Like I was at one point I couldn't find a project, and I was thinking about going with a buyer's agent. I just rang Aaron and asked him, am I on the right path? Should I go a buyer's agent? And he just, I knew the answer, but just to have him say, yeah, go for it. Plenty of people doing it. They'll help you out, this, that. And, it was just that easy decision to make.
Yeah, and sometimes it's your gut feel was yes, and that's going to happen all the way through. Your gut feel's been yes about how you're approaching this and everything you've done so far, but just having that tick of, yep, you're right. Somebody else saying that, because when there's so many little questions along the way, just getting those confirmed is really useful. How do you think doing property development from building will change your life?
Well, hopefully more money and more free time. I do really enjoy the construction. I enjoy, sometimes the hard work on site and seeing the finished product at the end. And you build a house from a pile of sticks. That's quite cool. But moving forward as a developer, I think it'll be a much better experience, I think.
Do you see yourself doing fewer builds because of moving into development? That's something that you naturally see happening?
Yeah, I'd like to, the grand scheme of things, I'd like to move away from all client work and just, one or two of mine a year, or even if it's, a larger project, some townhouses, every 2 years, or if I could stage them, one selling every year or something like that. That would be the grand plan.
Yeah, it's a good plan. And I guess in your particular case, the thing is you can be flexible in terms of how involved you get as the builder. I mean, you're going to be the developer anyway, so you're going to make good money out of that. And you can be anything from, on the tools, which you don't want to do, to taking a more supervisory role, to just engaging another builder. I've had builders in the mentoring program previously. I can remember a builder some years ago, and he joined the mentoring program, and his first project was 4 townhouses actually, which is a good project. And he got back to me and he said, "You know what? I've costed the 4 townhouses out, and I've got a builder who'll build them for the exact same price that it would cost me to build them." And because the other builder is used to doing townhouses, he was more a house builder. They had the right trades, the right subbies, they had decent buying power, and it's a lay down misère for him. He said, "I'll just be the developer, and the other guy can be the builder," because then the builder takes on the responsibility of building and the warranties and everything that goes with being a builder that a developer doesn't have. And so there's a builder who thought he might do a bit of building, but did no building, just stuck with development. And so you got that sort of flexibility, I guess, to come in and out at how you please as a builder. In our case, we're not builders, so we simply engage builders.
Yeah, I think the plan would be just to, building a standalone home, a duplex would be, quite simple. But townhouses, I've never had any experience with it, so I just wouldn't have a go at that. I think I'd be happy to pay a builder for that one. But if it was just, the little houses, they're, supervising one of them while they're getting built, it's quite simple. Jump in on the tool belt every now and then.
I'm keen to see when you engage another builder.
Yes.
I'm keen to see, like, for instance, when you're going through the building contract and the sort of conversations going each way. Having been on the other side of a building contract all the time, now you're on the other side of a building contract, and yeah, that'd be interesting. I'd like to sit in on that one.
Yeah, and I think even the site visits and the building, I'd have to really think about how I'm going to play that out, or whether I'm no longer the builder, I'm just there as the developer. Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
It'd be interesting, but in your case, it's an advantage.
Yeah, it's a massive advantage. How do you see property development? I know you've talked about you've got the family coming along now, and initially, actually, before I go into that question, Grace was going to be involved. Your wife, she was going to be involved in the design. Is that still something she wants to be a part of?
We're still trying to. Yeah, she definitely wants to be involved. Her current career, she's a dietitian. She really enjoys it, but I think the same thing. She's seen the money that property developers can make, so she's interested in jumping over. We're unsure how she's going to be involved just yet. Whether I've told her I've got the course there that she can sit down and watch. So we'll see. I guess she can watch through that and see how she what she thinks of it all, how she thinks she can help.
Yeah, well, I mean, that'll just sort of happen organically, I think. And the more she sees you getting involved, the more she'll probably want to get involved as well. And being involved can be just sharing as well, sharing the excitement, as is the case with a lot of partners. But then some get more involved, particularly at, selection time, which is the thing I wouldn't say I detest it, but I just got picking colours, and it's not easy when you're colourblind like me anyway, but picking colours and tiles and
You're seriously
fit
colourblind.
outs and I pay people to do that.
And it's something I'm not really that interested in either. It's too time consuming for me, and it just doesn't it's not my jam. So that's something we outsource. But so many couples, when they work together, it becomes the female role, and they love it, and that's awesome. Like, you take on the part that you love. What part of this development journey do you see yourself loving the most?
Finding the site, now that I look back at what it was, that was quite exhilarating, going to the open homes and checking the numbers. But sort of when you're in it, looking at realestate.com every waking hour, you think, oh, am I ever going to get there? Is this really for me? But that was kind of fun looking back at it. Now that I've engaged a architect to sort of get the plans drawn, I'm looking forward to how that's all going to play out. Just sort of hand the house to her and draw something for me. That design I'm looking forward to. I estimate the house to be ready to be started to build around the time our first baby will be born. So I'm not sure how that will juggle around just yet. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Out with the floodlights.
Yes.
There's a few prenatal, what do you call them, lessons and so forth between now and then. learning how to put a nappy on a doll and all that, whatever else you do. It's been a while since I've been to one of those.
I remember we had a mentoring student a few years back, and because of his job, we could never talk about him. And that does happen quite a bit. People are in roles that they can't tell that what they do. Maybe they do sort of secret jobs, if you can imagine what secret jobs are. But they had a baby, which lots of mentoring students actually have babies during the program. But they had a baby, and he said, well, I can say what, because I won't say his name, but he was special forces. So he, was just, what he did was he went through that horrific training where they kept up for 3 days and all that sort of thing. And he said when his wife had the baby, he goes, I can't believe what women go through and how hard it was. He goes, it's harder than any special forces training. That's what he reckoned.
Yeah, it's worse than going behind enemy lines.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think you're in for a wee treat.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Well, it's just a whole other learning experience too. We're looking at prams and baby seats, and you just get lost in all the details. So that's a whole other learning.
Yeah, be back to like really effective time management, I guess, and learning how to operate with a foggy head.
Yeah, there's going to be a bit of that. What does success look like to you, Reece? Before, maybe go back 10 years before you even started building, what did you think success was? And then the building for 5 years, and now, jumping over to developing. Has that vision of success changed, or has it always been the same?
I'd say it's changed for sure. As at a young kid, you want all the money, you want the nice cars and all that goes with it. But I wouldn't say it's really money anymore. It's more free time. I'd like to have more free time, more holidays. That would be the dream.
So success for you is just buying your time back, really, or gaining that time back. Is that for you?
Yeah, not at the expense of necessarily other things, but it's back to priorities. A quality of life and lifestyle, which comes from, to me, a good lifestyle still has two ingredients. It has time, because if you're just working all the time, that's like, to me, that's not a great lifestyle, because where do you have the time to enjoy it? Also money. I mean, if you can make quite good money and also have plenty of time off, that's a great lifestyle. Some people that live in the bush might say, well, you don't need money, you need time. Some people say you don't need time, you need money. Oh, well, mate, I like both. And that's what property development does. And you might have a main priority, but it doesn't mean you can't have everything. You can have the time, you can have the money, and then eventually you can have the fancy cars and the fancy houses if that's what you want. Just don't go fancy cars, fancy houses until you're more established as a property developer. Remember that story I told you once? A young guy came to one of my workshops, and he was about 25. And I said, very young, I said, look, why you chosen property development as the way to go? And he said, oh, I've seen guys like you. He said, you've got fantastic big houses and you all drive red Ferraris and you've got a beautiful woman on your arm. And I thought, oh, wow, if that's your view and that's your target, what happens when you start to hit some speed bumps and things start to go a little bit haywire, as they can and invariably will? Where's the dream of the red Ferrari, and will the pretty girl be there to hold your hand? Well, fortunately, I'm covered in that respect. That was an interesting attitude of a young 25-year-old on how he envisaged a property developer and in his sort of long-term view. I'm sure it's changed a lot since then.
I think that's alluding to almost what Reece said there, where before it was the pretty things, the expensive stuff, and your desires have now changed. And I think as you get older, that's a thing, because we're the same. Seriously, I don't even really care about so much stuff. I mean, we're excited to be going to New Zealand tomorrow to hang out with kids, and I'll be crawling around on the floor and playing cars and inspector gadgets and all sorts of things, actually doing that sort of thing. And that's kind of where I think we all get to eventually. I'm sure you have to have the money to be able to do that. But it sort of leads me to something that when we interviewed Liam Nagel, and he got his first, he sold his development. So he went through the mentoring program, and instead of making a profit of 400,000, he made a profit of 600,000. What is that about? And because prices went up. and he was so tempted to go out and buy a Rolex because it was always on his list, but he didn't do it. He really withheld himself, and he said, "No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not yet." He was, same thing. Got a little bit older. Thought I'm going to prioritize and move forward completely differently. So, what will be your milestone purchase? What will that be? Is it the Rolex? Is it what is it?
What about the Rolls Royce?
Yeah, I don't really want much in life, but I do think I would like a nice watch. I have been looking at it for a while. I was going to buy one, but when I finished this house, but the money didn't sit long in the account, and I bought this next one. So maybe when I finish this one.
Maybe when you get off the tools, last thing you want to do is scratch a $30,000 Rolex or something. Yeah.
Is it a Rolex, Reece?
Yeah, something like that. Maybe the APs or something like that. But they're the next level up. I think that might be a bit ridiculous, but we'll see.
Oh, that's good. I think you should reward yourself. I just was saying, don't go out and buy a $600,000 Ferrari or something like that, But a reward like say even a $30,000 watch out of a upmarket duplex where you just made $500,000 or $600,000 isn't ridiculous. It would be if you're living on credit cards, but I think reward yourself, reward your family.
I think you've bounced on another point there too, Bob. Whereas if you're not living on credit cards, and you're quite a sensible person, Reece, from meeting you, and sort of I'd see you as sort of quite goal orientated, and I'm sure you know exactly when that watch is coming. I'd be pretty sure you've made that decision. Now, is there anything else you would, before I know you said, I've got a question to ask you guys, before we get to that, is there anything you want me to ask you that's something you want to say, do you want me to ask you any particular question?
I guess, do you want to talk how I could sort of lead into, why I went with you guys over the other developer courses?
Oh, yeah. So, okay, now that wasn't a staged question. Why did you work with Property Mastermind over the other courses? There you go. That's a funny question. I love it.
I'm keen to hear.
Yeah. Just make sure when you're listening that we didn't know this was coming. That's hilarious.
I'd say it was what drew me to you guys was it's the smaller community. It's not a big Australia-wide community, I guess you could say. Or it is, but it's not a big ginormous system, I guess you could say. That's probably the 2-for-1 deal, I guess, with you with the mindset, Hilary, and Bob with the experience. Somewhat a bit of a older school approach, Bob, the way you sort of go about things, instead of the new age, racing through it or whatever. I just wanted to learn from the basics, from experience. So that's why I chose you guys.
Yeah, been in the trenches over the years. So,
Follow the process.
Well, I've been through plenty of ups and downs in the market and everything else. So, I think that counts. And because we got Aaron, who's younger and more into, he's very good on front end stuff and uses AI and all sorts of things. So, I agree. I haven't actually heard that before. You may have when you were talking with Reece, but I never did.
Oh, not from Reece. I haven't, but I've heard other people say.
I've heard from other people. Yeah, we often get people that have been somewhere else.
Too often
arrive unhappy. But anyway, oh no, that's interesting.
Yeah, there's only 20 mentees at a time or something like that. I think you mentioned once upon a time, and it just made sense to be just a smaller number. With the three of you overseeing it all, you're not just going to be signed up and left in the shadows, I guess.
Yeah. I've seen mentoring programs with 200 people. We break them up into 10 groups of 20, and each group has last year's students. We decided not to do that when we started out.
It's a real personal approach, though. That's the idea behind what we do.
You can't do that with property development because it's so specific to the person, it's so specific to the project. You can't just do cookie cutter stuff and just throw 100 people into a cookie cutter model.
By 7:30 this morning, I'd spoken to 3 mentoring students and text one of them about 4 times after that. So it is very personal, but that's just how we've got a little system going. That Wednesday morning, I give them a bit of a kick up the butt and have a check in and know what's going on. It makes the difference. It just makes the difference. But you couldn't do that with a lot more people. So
no. And I cut in on one of those conversations at about 7:05, and then he'd sent in a feasibility, and so I jumped onto my laptop and went through that at sort of 7:10, and by 7:30 he had all the answers.
And I said to Bob, "Who does that? Like, and nobody does that." And I even said to him, I was replying back, I was like, "You can't complain about your level of service." He's pretty funny. It was
No.
actually Kyle.
Yeah, but like that was through no sense of obligation. I mean,
No.
that's just what we do.
Yeah, we don't have to do that. We could have waited until
No.
after this, but no, it's just how we roll. Okay, you said you had a question for us, Reece. I'm a little bit concerned. What is it?
So I was going to ask, so hypothetically, wind back the clock, you guys are 20-year-old, or 19, 20, 25, whatever, in this day and age, you've been in and out of jobs, and you've come across property development. What would be your system? What would be your career choice? How would you focus your energy on becoming a property developer as soon as possible? Like, would you be looking to being a real estate agent, a buyer's agent, construction, or would you just try and get a job to get a deposit together? Or how would you go about that?
I'm going to go first on this one. It's probably a conversation I had with somebody yesterday who booked into my diary, and they belong to a different educator, but they still rang me, asked me what they think they should do, which was kind of confusing. But depending on how much money I had at the time, and at 20, I'm thinking I don't have a huge amount, I would undeniably get a course, preferably ours. Look into it properly. Don't just be sold to by an advertisement. Like, do your own due diligence on who you're learning from. I would absolutely learn it inside out. So I was really confident, to the point where you are now, Reece, where you just feel confident with what you're saying because it makes sense. And then it's not until you have that absolute confidence and competence, because you'd be looking for a joint venture partner to get started. And so I would use that as my road to get into development. Would I do development? Probably my gut feel is I'd start probably with a renovation and a subdivision. That would be me, because I'm only 20, and I do agree, after knowing what I know now, when I see people come into the mentoring program and they have these really big ideas and they want to do projects that are too big, and I just think that you are better off starting small. So I would start that way. I'd do a reno subdivision, perhaps sell it, or maybe build on the back, and then I'd have to know what I was doing, know how to interact with somebody to get someone to come on side. And at 20, that's going to be reasonably difficult, but there would be people in my world, because of the sort of person I am, that would be that high achieving kind of go for it kind of people. I would look for those people who want to do it with me, because I doubt I'll be able to do it on my own. That would be mine. What would you do, Bob?
I just cast my mind back historically. I was in my 20s when I got involved in property
That's like me, because I was in my 20s when I was doing renos. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were.
Yeah. I mean, I came out of a very bad car accident that put me out of action for 2 years and sort of financially wrecked me. Not that I had a lot of finances at that time. I was quite young. I had a bad accident coming home from mate's 21st, even though I was sober. Ran into a bridge, had 2 years off. When I came around, I knew all I could think about is making money. And I had to work, well, who makes money? Where can I make money? And I don't mean like just go and get a 9 to 5. I mean, where can I make serious money? And I narrowed it down to property. And then I looked around, what do I do? Am I a builder? Am I this or am I that? And I thought, no, I want to be a property developer. Spoke to a builder my dad knew, who was also a builder developer, there you go, and decided it was property development. And so I packed up from Brisbane, where I lived, and went to the Gold Coast, and I got into real estate. I couldn't see any avenues open where you could go straight into property development, and I couldn't find any courses. So this is right early 80s. And like you could become
online didn't exist.
Online, no. And even at TAFE, you could become a valuer, but there's no property development courses. They came a lot later. And even the property development, like at, say, university, it's not streetwise. It'll get you a job at Lendlease or Mirvac, but it won't cut the ice really for doing what we do. And so that was me. I went through a property related thing, which was real estate. Met a lot of people, asked a lot of questions, and my first project came through the real estate agency. And having met a guy that had bought some land, went out and got an approval for four lots, and then came back in to sell it with an approval. That was Tony. That's where I got my first big break. So by making that move into a property related field that wasn't what I eventually wanted to do, but I could see I was going to learn and make contacts, as a 20, whatever it was.
But like, if you were to do that now with the technology, would you still do the same road?
I might, but I'd definitely go straight to the education, which I couldn't get.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So I had to actually watch other developers, and being a real estate salesman enabled me to do that. Watch them do developments and try and reverse engineer it, and also talk to them. Whereas now you can jump that and go straight to a good property development course and do your DD well on which one you choose.
So you do a
and
course.
that's what I would do.
Yeah.
As a lover of property, I might also look for a job in real estate because that would give me a lot of really depth knowledge of a local market.
I think I'd do
but
that.
Not
too.
everybody can be like I found out I was really good at selling real estate, but also we had guys come and go that weren't. And so, it doesn't mean it's going to work.
I think I'd do real estate as well. I think because
you'd be great
because we're both. That's the thing. We both already like property, but Reece, I also think that to that question, and just like you, we are positive people. Like, we are people who we're go-getters. All three of us. Like, you set yourself a goal. Poor Grace. I bet when you got your eyes on her, she was just like, there was no way she was getting away. You would have said, I'm having that one. But I think, I don't mean poor Grace, lucky Grace. But I think that when you are somebody that, even something bad that happens to you, we've all had bad things happen. When Bob was reflecting back to when he was young, he lay in bed reading all about health, like natural health, massive. He has a massive amount of knowledge in that area. So we've all gone down roads of like internal personal development and all of that stuff with that drive for something. I think that that's important too. I probably would have got into that at 20 because I probably didn't start till late 20s before I first found Tony Robbins. I mean, I'm not a huge Tony Robbins follower now, but that was my introduction to personal development. And I think that, that stuff all matters. And I'd probably get into that earlier, sell real estate as well.
I did get into it, but I was forced to because of my back for ages, after the car accident. I often say it's probably, short of meeting Hilary, was the best thing that ever happened to me in a way. Or maybe having kids was another good one. But like, it just forced me to take time off. I was a very busy lifestyle and like stretching, burn the candle at both ends. And that switched me across to health because I got smashed up in an accident and I had the time and wanting to improve things, self-development.
So if we asked you that same question, Reece, if you go back to 20, which is probably about 15 years ago, 15 is it? 17?
35 now, so.
Yep, 15, yeah. There you go. If you go back 15 years, what would you have done differently? Anything, or the track right now is just going how it should?
I think, I sort of grew up out in the country. There wasn't really many opportunities out there. You worked on the farm or you become a tradesman type thing. I think knowing what I'd know, I probably would have still done the building carpentry apprenticeship. I've had a lot of good times there, made some nice, good money on it. Yeah, I think I would. I probably would have started the development a little bit earlier, maybe, but maybe sort of, on the side also looked at maybe the real estate or the buyer's agent or something like that, just to get that knowledge with purchasing property and values and everything else that goes with it.
Yeah, so we've all got that very similar. But none of us really changed our journey. All of us just would have done it earlier. I think that's a massive takeaway for this podcast, actually. Whatever you're wanting to do in life, whether it be property development, improve your health, find a relationship, leave one, whatever, do it earlier. I think that's the big takeaway here.
Yeah, that's great. But of course, a lot of people don't discover things like that until later. And like people that say join our mentoring program from all walks of life. In fact, I know yesterday you were going through a lot of the people in, say, for the last, 2 or 3 years of the mentoring program and having a look at the sort of
7 years. I went through 7 years.
7 years back, seeing what jobs they actually have, like their day jobs. And a lot of them become property developers full time. Some are still, doing their day job. Like if you're a brain surgeon, you may want to keep
brain surgeon
being one. Although you can make a better hourly rate than a brain surgeon. I can show you how to do that. But yeah, so that would have been an interesting thing. I haven't heard the results of that yet, but pretty well all walks of life, I guess. Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't matter what you're doing.
It's been interesting because I did it in order of the year and just watched the flow. and how sometimes people, I did it in actual order, so there's more from that state, more from that state, more from that state. It's interesting. Yeah, it has been interesting. I just went through for obviously marketing purposes and looking at who is interested in property right now. And we do have a huge amount of people just like you, Reece, like a lot of builders, but it is an eclectic bunch. I think we should wind this one up. I think that I just want to do that last plug for Reece, because I think if you are serious about, doing something with your property, you live in Brisbane and you want to have a chat with somebody about doing a joint venture, he's the guy that, we definitely enjoy working with him. Great, solid guy, just genuine. I think coming off a farm makes a huge difference, because I'm off a farm too. But, just solid and very professional, who's a go-getter and has a care factor. So if that's something that you're thinking about doing with your property in Brisbane, we'll put Reece's email address below here. Otherwise, do you have a website they could contact you through, or not right now, Reece? You
no.
just stick with just the email
Just
address.
email address for now.
All right. Well, you could reach out to Reece through his email address. His name's Reece Brydon. And did you have something else you wanted to say there?
No, that's about it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much for doing it. And as usual, Bob, thank you for jumping in. He got off one meeting and came straight in here and sat down, and I'm like, it's Reece we're talking to.
Yeah. Well, normally when I talk to Reece, it's about numbers or something, or finance or anything. But it's good to have that other type of conversation. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks, mate.
And we hope we've inspired some of you who may be thinking about doing property development to reach out and have a call with me. There's also a link to my diary below, so you're welcome to have a chat with me if you want to know more about what we do. But that's the end of our episode for this week. We'll catch you again next week. Bye for now.
Bye now.
See you guys.